And the trouble that we're discovering associated with climate change comes from space exploration. By comparing the planets, by comparing the climate of Mars with the Earth, and then comparing the climate of Venus with the Earth, and then especially if you like to party, comparing the climate of Mercury with Venus, that's not fun. Venus considerably hotter than Mercury, even though it's almost twice as far from the sun. For you inverse square law buffs, that should be a quarter as hot, but it's quite a bit hotter. It's so hot on Venus.
How hot is it?
It's so hot on Venus you could melt lead. It's so hot on Venus that all the oxygen's been cooked away, all the water vapor's been cooked away, and they, if there are any of them, have sulfuric acid rain. Which I gotta think. I mean, you got surface melting lead and sulfuric acid rain. That's tough. And I hope you all remember this game where you can't step on the floor because it's like, and then you gotta like go from one side of the kitchen to the other on the chairs. The sink is like acid. Well, on Venus, it's really like that. The wooden chairs, I know in the kitchen, there's some issues. It's a game. By any sort of Western culture reckoning, Venus really is like hell. And so if we keep things up the way they are, we very well may be headed to that. So I'll just leave you with one more thought that I find so compelling. It is through science, the discovery of this process, that I came to be a skeptic, and I came to really embrace critical thinking, and I came to embrace the idea that you probably only get one shot at life, and so, well, roughly, don't blow it. I think about this also often. You know, if you live to be 82 in 7 weeks, anyone here? 82 in 7 weeks. Depends on leap years. But 82 and some change, you get to go through your 30,000th day. 30,000 days. And when you're young, when you're in elementary school, so 30,000 is uncountable. You can't imagine that many days. But if you go to the Coliseum, when the seats are all used, when the tarps are rolled back, and you get to sit in a different seat every day, you won't get halfway around. Now, I'm willing to admit that 102A is probably real similar to 103A, but still, you're not even going to get halfway around. And so that's why we really have to take advantage of every day, and we have to present our arguments that the scientific method and the process of science really is the best idea we've ever had, to as many people as possible. But we have a tendency, all of us, to dismiss people who believe other things, to dismiss people from outside, to dismiss people that speak different languages. I remember as a kid standing on the beach. This is in this story. I was in Delaware, which is a state back east. For those of you in California, the first state, the Diamond State. They haven't found any minerals there. They just thought it looks kind of cool. It's at sunrise. The waves have little diamonds in them, apparently. I stood there, and I remember our third grade teacher, Mrs. Cochran, had told us that there were more stars in the sky than grains of sand on the beach. And I remember thinking, I didn't articulate it in this way, I remember thinking at the time, Mrs. Cochran, are you high? I had some other way of saying it. Mrs. Cochran, there's a lot of sand on the beach. Lady, I mean, if you stand in Delaware, it's 1,500 nautical miles in each direction. There's nothing but sand. Sand. When you dig down and shuffle your feet, there's more sand. When the tide goes out, there is sand. You look behind you, there is sand. It's a sand festival. Sand, sand, sand. Mrs. Cochran, there can't possibly, yes, there are more stars than all of that. And it doesn't take you long to stand there and think, look, I really am not that different from a grain of sand. I mean, I am insignificant. I mean, if you look out at the so-called trackless ocean, if you go out there even a few nautical miles, you disappear. You have no idea where you are. near Delaware? Am I near Papua New Guinea? You can't really tell unless you're very experienced. You look at the sea color at night, you don't really know. So I remember thinking, I am just another speck of sand. And the Earth, really, in the cosmic scheme of things, is another speck. And the sun, an unremarkable star, nothing special about the sun. The sun is another speck. And the galaxy is a speck. I'm a speck, on a speck, orbiting a speck, among other specks, among still other specks, in the middle of specklessness. I am insignificant, I suck! But then, my friends, with my brain, which is only this big, and if you ever met my old boss, even, it must have been quite a bit smaller, but even he, we can imagine all of this. And it's with our brains that we can know our place in the universe. We can know our place in space. And that does not suck. That is worthy of respect. That is what's so great. That is what's so wonderful about humans. Thank you all very much.